I'm in Central Park, New York City, with Marie Wynn, who just wrote a wonderful book, Red Tails in Love. Marie, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Dick. It's great to have you here.
I've got to ask you, this is a wonderful book about chronicling the history of the story surrounding these hawks and the continuing saga about these hawks. And as interesting as the hawks are, I want to put that off for a minute and ask you first about what you wrote, falling in love yourself with bird watching here in this park, and the singular event that did that, the discovery of the bird register at the boathouse behind us. Tell me something about that.
I had always been a nature lover and was interested in everything, birds and frogs and insects, but in a rather unpassionate way.
Mm-hmm.
And the discovery of this document here in Central Park and the discovery of this community of bird watchers who I got to know very well and finally become one of them myself was what transformed me, I would say, into somebody more serious, more focused. And it was a kind of a journey of learning, I would say, because that is what all these people are doing in a slow and steady way. And what bird watching and hawk watching really require is faithfulness. Just regularly coming day after day after day. And I think that's what made the difference, my awareness that here is this group of pretty amiable people who just come every day and who monitor this place through the year, not just during the migrations when, of course, Central Park is pretty exciting.
Right. That's one of the things about becoming a bird watcher that I discovered is you become part automatically. I mean, you put binoculars around your neck. It is wild. It's an invitation for someone else to come up to you, and by and large, it's a friendly club that you automatically become a member of.
Most of the people here are really eager to share.
Right, right.
In fact, it is part of the pleasure for all of us, I'd say. If you see something, you really look around. Who's here? I want to show this to.
That's exactly it, isn't it? So tell me a little bit about the story associated with these hawks. I mean, I realize building nesting hawks are fairly rare occurrence.
Well, let's start in 1991.
Okay.
1991, a immature red-tailed hawk began to be regularly seen in Central Park towards the end of 91, in the winter. And at that time, it was still a kind of an event to have a red-tailed hawk hanging around. There were always migrating hawks to be seen and lots of hawk watching. And this young red-tailed hawk, he was hanging around, and we could always tell that it was the same one because he was very light in color.
Okay.
Unusually
That's the pale
light.
male then.
And that was pale male.
Okay.
And that bird has been the constant of the story from then to now. The early part of 1992, he was still hanging around, and people would write sightings of this pale-faced,
red-tailed hawk.
immature red-tailed hawk.
In the register, I think.
In the register.
So, it could
and
be.
then in February, I guess, he started appearing with another hawk, and the two of them were sighted regularly. And this other one was bigger than he was and had a very conspicuous red tail. So we knew this was an adult female. And the fact that they were sitting right next to each other made it pretty clear that they were an item.
All right.
And they started doing courtship maneuvers. And of course, this was unbelievable.
Did they do the regular everything?
They
drop
did,
the talons?
Talon drops and circling, and it was really amazing. And then mate feeding, which we saw many times, where she'd be sitting and he'd arrive with a pigeon or a rat. When I first wrote about these birds, in 1993, when they first built that nest there, I got in touch with 3 eminent hawk experts, and all of them reacted in the same way, just incredulity. And they didn't know of any precedents. As it happens, there were a few precedents, though none of them in quite as urban a spot. There was a pair in Dallas, Texas, that had nested on a building, and a pair in Troy, New York. But this was a skyscraper. And then, of course, the madness of '95, the incredible, I just can't tell you what it was like here.
People
Lined up with 5 or 6 or 7 telescopes and, you know, babies at last. And we all had T-shirts. I should have brought one to show you. Bright red T-shirts with a red-tailed hawk on it that said, "Success at last," the Fifth Avenue red tails. And everybody was following it, and then the excitement of fledging. And I must say, fledging is something that really captures your imagination, this idea of a bird, a creature, oneself being in a place that you've never left and being so constricted and suddenly sailing out into the world.
Here, I wonder, on this building with a building nest, my view of red-tailed hawks in the west, open woodlands, the hawk will begin to branch out, the young hawks into the tree. Now there's no branches coming out of the building there. What's going on? What do the young birds do?
You have put your finger on what was making us so anxious that first year, because we couldn't imagine when they couldn't fly that well, those fledgers just hop up to a branch. And in fact, some of the texts refer to them as branchers. First nestlings, then branchers, and then juveniles or whatever. And so the emergency equipment that we had now, whistles and blankets to wrap up a injured bird that had fallen on Fifth Avenue, and you know, we were, I must say, a little overwrought, because in fact, what they did was so perfect, these urban hawks. They treated the buildings like trees, and they would hop from a railing up to a ledge, up to the water tower on top, down to the roof, and they managed to be branchers on buildings. I think the main thing that is so great about this is that it doesn't end. And as I said at the very beginning of the book, I just had to stop writing this at some point. I just had to stop watching the hawks at some point and go and write this story. But in fact, it never ended. It goes on, and you can come to Central Park and see it for yourself. And this is absolutely true. The basic year that I was writing about was that first year of success. But the hawks have come back every single year, and this year they had 3 magnificent young, and 3, I want you to know, since you come from Montana, where you have real nature, is above average. 3 is a sign of excellent environment. That's what our hawk experts tell us. So we're very proud of this. And they all fledged successfully, and I expect that next year they'll be back, and the year after, and I'll be taking my grandchildren, and they'll be taking theirs. The Pale Male Dynasty.
Right. Well, this is a beautifully written book, and the story's great. People should read this book. Wonderful book, Red Tails in Love. Marie, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.